Understanding History, Book 3, Chapter number 4, The Great Conflict, World War I, Lesson number 4. Assalamu alaikum. Learning objectives are, by the end of lesson, students will be able to understand that how World War I came into an end, what changes took place after World War I in the world, rise of communism. Subtopics are Woodrow Wilson's 14 points, the Treaty of Versailles 1919, the Treaty of Sèvres 1920, changes after World War I, British India and World War I, the rise of communism. Pages are from 33 to 37. Woodrow Wilson, he was president of USA. He wanted the treaty to be signed or based on his 14 points. In his own thinking that his 14 points can bring peace into the Europe. This includes the making of the League of Nations to prevent further war. The 14 points of Woodrow Wilson we will discuss next. The third, Woodrow Wilson in his 14 points suggested that there should be open diplomacy rather than secret agreements between the nations. He said there should be freedom of seas, there should be free trade routes for every nation. He suggested to reduce the military forces and weapons as well. As we know that British, French and many other nations have their own colonies, so he suggested that readjust the colonies fairly. He also wanted that Russia should get the right of self-determination for its own government. In his 7th point, he discussed for the respect for Belgium's integrity. And next he said for a restoration of French territories. It means that the parts which once were the territory of France should be given back. Italy received territory based upon ethnicity. Austria-Hungary received fair development opportunities that they have right to develop. Independence for the Balkan states. Balkan states included Bosnia-Herzegovina, Sarajevo, Macedonia, Romania, etc. Independence for Balkan states, and then he said self-determination for the people of the Ottoman Empire and free passage through the Dardanelles. Dardanelles actually a sea passage between Europe and Turkey. He also talked for the independence of Poland. And in his last point, he said the formation of League of Nations to guarantee independence for all countries, large and small. He wanted to have an institution who can have a check on different nations for their self-determination, their independence. However, Wilson's 14 points were not completely accepted by the European powers as their view differed from his. The Europeans wanted their empires and colonies to continue, but they approved of the Americans' proposal for the League of Nations. The Ottoman Empire, which comprised Turkey and the Middle East, was placed under mandates and made to sign separate treaties in 1920 and 1923. Ultimately, the empire broke up in 1922. We are talking about Ottoman Empire, which broke up into many states in 1922. The Treaty of Versailles was signed in 1919. Germany was made to sign the Treaty of Versailles in June 1919. The German delegation met the Allied representatives. Allied forces, were the British forces, and Germany agreed to evacuate, to empty the all areas which had taken during the war. He also surrendered all arms, ships, and other war material, and to allow the Allies to occupy German territory along the river Rhine. The main terms of the Treaty of Versailles were War Guilt Clause. Germany should accept the blame of starting World War One. They blamed Germany that Germany started World War One. Reparations: Germany must pay 6,600 million pounds for the damage caused by the war. Disarmament: Germany was allowed to have an army of 1 lakh and 6 naval ships, but tanks and aircraft and air force and submarines were not allowed. The Rhineland area was to be demilitarized. Territorial clause: land was taken away from Germany, including its colonies, and given to other countries. Union with Austria was forbidden. These all were the clauses present in Treaty of Versailles. The clause of treaty were degrading for Germany, as it was unfairly made to accept responsibility for the war and was penalized for the damage. This made Germany acutely conscious of rebuilding its image after the war.
The Treaty of Versailles, 1919. World War I officially came to an end with the signing of the Treaty of Versailles on June 28, 1919. 32 countries had come together in Paris in January 1919 to hold a conference which would make peace after the First World War. It would be dominated by the Big Three: David Lloyd George representing Britain, George Clemenceau representing France, and Woodrow Wilson representing the USA. Germany was not invited. The Big Three wanted different things for Germany and disagreed on how harshly they were to be punished, reflecting how their countries were treated in the war. They had to negotiate with each other until there was a compromise. This was difficult because Wilson was opposed to harsh punishment for Germany. The USA had not been involved in the war as long as Britain and France and had not received as much damage. He wanted to prevent another world war by creating the League of Nations based on his 14 points, to ensure Germany would not be destroyed and that Germany shouldn't be blamed for the war. Clemenceau's aims were the harshest of the three, representing the damage Germany had done to France's land and people and its threatening proximity. He wanted revenge and to punish Germany, to return Alsace-Lorraine to France, an independent Rhineland, no League of Nations, Germany to pay huge reparations for the damage and losses caused, the disbandment of the German army so that Germany would never be strong enough to attack France again. Lloyd George was an in-between. This reflected Britain, which had little land damage but high war losses. He wanted a punishment that would be tough enough to please those who wanted to make Germany pay, but would leave Germany strong enough to still trade. Land for Britain's empire, to safeguard Britain's naval supremacy. When the Treaty of Versailles was ready, Germany was shown the document, but there was no negotiation. Their rebuttal ignored. On 28 June 1919, the delegates met at the Hall of Mirrors in the Palace of Versailles near Paris and forced 2 German representatives to sign it.
The Treaty of Sèvres, 1920. The Ottomans, who had sided with Germany, as you know that there was 2 groups in the World War One. One group was with Germany and the other was with England, British. So Ottomans, who had sided with Germany and Italy and also faced defeat in Syria and Palestine, were made to sign the Treaty of Sèvres. According to this treaty, Egypt, Lebanon, Mesopotamia, Syria and Transjordan were taken away from Turkey. As we know that Ottoman Empire was consisted of Turkey and Middle East states, so the Ottoman Empire was broken up and most of the Arab states under Ottoman rule were encouraged to become independent. So we can say that many Arab states became independent after World War One. Like Germany, Turkey was also asked to pay for war damages. In Treaty of Versailles, you have seen that Germany was asked to pay 6,600 million pounds as a fine or as a punishment of war. The third party, Italy, managed to defeat Austria-Hungary, but it had to sign the peace agreement with Germany and Turkey. However, it was resentful about its role in peace agreement being ignored. The USA was not a signatory to the Treaty of Versailles. In 1921, it signed a separate treaties with Germany, Austria, and Hungary. The USA also did not join the League of Nations. As you see that President Wilson proposed for League of Nations, but he did not join League of Nations. President Wilson was awarded the Nobel Peace Prize in 1919 for his peacemaking efforts for World War One. World was changed after World War One. It was not the same as it was before that. A number of changes took place after World War One ended. First of all, the map of Europe and the Middle East was changed considerably. As you know that there became new states in Middle East. The Ottoman Empire was carved up among the European powers. So, Ottoman Empire was also divided. Turkey emerged as an independent nationalistic state in 1924. That was after the end of Ottoman Empire. Germany lost all her colonies. Austria and Hungary were reduced to less than a third of their size. So many countries lost their territories after World War One. Czechoslovakia, Poland, and Yugoslavia were recognized as independent states. Some countries became independent states after World War One. Monarchies in Russia, Austria-Hungary, and Germany came to an end. The Bolshevik Revolution in Russia introduced communism as a political philosophy. Now we will discuss role of British India during World War One. At the outbreak of war, the British feared that the Indian might use the situation to pressurize them for self-rule, as they were already talking about for their independence. However, both the Congress and the Muslim League extended their support and assurance that self-government would not be pursued till Britain was at war. So, British were satisfied after their promises. Muslim League and Congress asked them that they will be with them during war. Indians wholeheartedly support Britain in war effort. Recruitments to the Indian armed forces increased. They fully helped British in war. They joined forces. They gave money, wheat, uniform, leather goods, and pig iron were shipped out to Britain. So they wholeheartedly supported the Britons. Many soldiers volunteered for duty in Europe, and Indian regiments fought on the Western Front and in Africa and Gallipoli. Money was also volunteered by princely states for servicing the war effort. However, when Ottoman Empire sided with Germany during the war, Indian Muslims were alarmed. The Ottoman Sultan was the Khalifa or spiritual leader of Muslims, and the Khilafat had to be safeguarded by them. As Britain was fighting Turkey in the war, many Indian soldiers refused to fight the Muslim Turks. Some deserted rather than fight, and others were executed for not obeying orders. To keep the Indian Muslim on their side, the British Indian government promised to respect the religious sites of Islam in Ottoman land and to make sure that fair treatment was given to Turkey and Khilafat after the war was over. So they made so many promises during war, but unfortunately they did not fulfill their promises after war. The war ended, but Turkey was not protected as promised. British did not fulfill their promises which they made during the war. The Treaty of Sevres was Sevres and Ottoman territories in Middle East were taken over as mandates by Britain and France. They divided Ottoman Empire into many states. Mustafa Kemal Pasha led a nationalist revolution in Turkey, whereby the institutions of the Khilafat was finished, and you can say Khilafat came to an end. Turkey became a republic in 1924. The Ottoman ruler and Khalifa Abdulmajid II was deposed and exiled with his family to France in March 1924. The rise of communism. Communism as a social and economic system came into prominence after World War I. The word communism denotes a social system in which property is owned by the state rather than individuals, and all must contribute by their effort. It is a reaction to a society where there is a great divide between the rich and the poor. The movement took root in Russia, ruled by Tsars, a powerful monarchy in power since 17th century, and by rich landlord. So communism is a reaction towards landlords and rich people from poor. The condition during those times means in early 20th century, Russia were harsh for the poor, and the situation was made worse by World War I. It means that there were so many poor and they were unable to meet their daily needs. The idea of Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels became popular. Marx wrote the Communist Manifesto, and the movement spread, leading to the revolution which overthrew the Tsar in March 1917. Karl Marx is called the father of communism. Dear students, you can see a picture on a screen. Here are three leaders of communist movement. Right to left, Karl Marx, Friedrich Engels, and Vladimir Lenin. The slogan the communists used were "From each according to his abilities, to each according to his need." Student, here you can see a map on your screens. The red area is showing the communist countries. A republican government was put in place in Russia, and it continued the war against Germany. But the Bolshevik party wanted to make peace with Germany so that they could bring in communist rule in Russia. Vladimir Lenin became Bolshevik party leader, who in the second revolution in October 1917 overthrew the republican government and made Russia into a communist country called the Union of Soviet Socialist Republic. Communists now spread to the other countries in Eastern Europe and also to China. The USSR, means Union of Soviet Socialist Republic, had effectively gained influence in Eastern Europe as most countries became communist. After communist revolution, many countries become communist. Here are name of countries formerly part of Soviet Union included Armenia, Azerbaijan, Belarus, Estonia, Georgia, Kazakhstan, Kyrgyzstan, Latvia, Lithuania, Moldova, Russia, Tajikistan, Turkmenistan, Ukraine, and Uzbekistan. The other Asian countries included Afghanistan, Cambodia, Mongolia, and Yemen. Soviet-controlled Eastern Bloc countries included Bulgaria, Czech Republic, Germany, Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Slovakia. The Balkans included Albania, Bosnia and Herzegovina, Bulgaria, Croatia, Republic of Macedonia, Montenegro, Serbia, and Slovenia. Africa includes Angola, Benin, Democratic Republic of Congo, Ethiopia, Somalia, and Mozambique. Current communist countries included Russia, China, Laos, North Korea, and Vietnam. These all countries adopted the principles of communism. So students, you just completed your topic, unit number 4. Here we are having assignment question. Question number 1. Explain the changes that took place after World War I. We have discussed in this video that territorial changes took place. And the second question is, how did the Indian react to World War I? How did they react? You have studied, and you can watch this video again, that they were with British government, and they recruited for army. They gave wheat and money, each and everything. It means they support British army fully. So you have to write down answers to these 2 questions on your notebooks. Write down questions properly, draw margins, date and day, topic, and complete your given assignments.